I had no intention of looking in the glove box. My only goal was to sell the car. The payments were piling up, and the bank's calls were becoming a daily nuisance. On that particular Seattle morning, under a sky streaked with damp grey clouds, I stood before Clara's old sedan, telling myself it was only a vehicle. But my hand shook as I touched the door. It had been 32 days since she passed away. 32 days since the call from the hospital, where they used phrases like sudden aneurysm and no chance to intervene. 32 days of my daughter, Lily, speaking to me only in clipped sentences about schoolwork or the grocery list, each word a shard from a life we no longer lived. That morning, I was alone in the kitchen, the clinking of my spoon against my teacup echoing too loudly in the silence. The sound used to bother Clara. Now, it was a ghost of our old arguments. A family photograph from our trip to Cannon Beach last summer was still on the windowsill, Clara with her arms wrapped around Lily and me. We looked so genuinely happy. I couldn't help but wonder when the performance had started. I called upstairs that breakfast was ready, knowing Lily wouldn't respond. I'd heard her bedroom door slam shut just minutes before, a sharp, definitive sound. Being 17 is difficult, grieving at 17 is a nightmare. But watching your own daughter become a stranger is a unique kind of pain. The car, parked at the edge of the driveway, was coated in a film of pollen and grime, looking as if it hadn't been touched since her funeral. Clara used to wash it every Sunday, polishing the chrome until it shone. She felt a person's car was a reflection of them. I didn't care about reflections, I just needed to pay the gas bill. Grabbing the spare keys, I stepped out into the drizzling rain, that fine Seattle mist that seeps into your bones. I slid into the driver's seat, and the air inside was stale but undeniably hers, a mixture of sandalwood perfume, leather, and something else I couldn't place but felt like memory. I reached for the glove compartment, my hesitation lasting only a moment. The latch clicked open with a sound that seemed to reverberate through the car. Inside were the expected items: insurance documents, an old charger, a pair of sunglasses. I laid them out on the passenger seat. Then my eyes caught it, a small, black flash drive tucked away in the back corner. It was plain, except for a tiny label with a single, handwritten letter, M. I held the plastic drive in my hand, a strange premonition settling in my stomach. This wasn't just a car part anymore. It was the beginning of a story I was not prepared to read. As the rain tapped against the windshield, I was no longer a widower cleaning out a car. I was a man on the precipice of a truth I never knew existed, and I wasn't certain I wanted to discover it. I didn't plug in the device immediately. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the flash drive as if it were a bomb. The letter "Clem" on the label was smudged, written hastily. It wasn't Clara's handwriting, her script was always elegant and precise. This was rushed, intimate. A name, perhaps. I took the drive to the study, Clara's study, a room I had avoided since her death. It still smelled of her, of old books and faint perfume. Her legal texts on immigration law lined the shelves, and a certificate from a refugee aid organization hung over her desk. It had been her passion, securing legal status for displaced people. She rarely shared details, simply saying she was doing some good before changing the subject. My laptop screen flared to life. For a fleeting second, I considered putting the drive away and pretending I'd never seen it. But it was too late. The device clicked into the USB port. A single, unlabeled folder appeared. Inside were dozens of files, letters, photos, and documents with codes I couldn't decipher. I opened the first one. Dear Clara, thank you again for your help. I truly don't know what I would have done without you. Marco. I froze. The name Marco meant nothing to me. It didn't belong in our life, or at least not the one I knew. A knot formed in my stomach. I clicked on another file. I'm so frightened. Eli's fever won't break. I know I promised not to ask again, but if there's any way you can help with the clinic costs. Eli asked about you. He wants to fly kites like you did last time. He misses you. I miss you. My mouth felt like sand. The cursor blinked, daring me to continue. Next were the photos. A man with kind, weary eyes. A young boy, maybe 7 or 8, with light brown hair and a warm smile. In some images, they were alone. In others, Clara was with them, her arms around them, laughing, smiling with a joy I hadn't seen in years. I recoiled from the desk, my legs threatening to buckle. I grabbed the back of the chair to steady myself. Who was Marco? Who was this boy? Who had Clara really been? I didn't hear the door creak open. What are you doing? Lily's voice was sharp, cutting through my daze. She stood in the doorway, her eyes swollen and red. Her gaze darted from the screen to the flash drive, then back to my face. Are you spying on Mom? Her voice broke. Lily, it's not like that. She strode forward. You're digging through her things like she was a criminal. She's gone, Dad. Can't you just let her rest? I tried to speak, but the words were trapped by the weight on my chest. You're unbelievable, she seethed, turning away. The door slammed, leaving me alone with the image of a wife I didn't recognize, a woman who now existed in my daughter's fury and a stranger's gaze. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay in bed, the soft whisper of rain against the glass like a secret I couldn't decipher. My thoughts were a chaotic loop of names, dates, letters, and the image of Clara's arms wrapped around that little boy, the look on her face mirroring the one she once gave Lily. At dawn, I returned to the study. I opened the folder again, this time absorbing the reality of it. The letters from Marco spanned years, some affectionate, some desperate, but always mentioning the boy, Eli. I tried Clara's email accounts, but most were inaccessible. One was open, but the inbox had been wiped clean. The flash drive was her private world. Next, I examined the financial statements I'd been avoiding. I wasn't looking for totals, but for anomalies. And there they were, regular transfers on the 1st and 15th of every month. The amounts were small enough to go unnoticed, but they added up to thousands over the years, all directed to an account with the initials M. I didn't need more proof. I found a scanned rental agreement on the drive. The address was for a place in South Seattle, in the Rainier Valley, a part of the city I hadn't visited in years. The last time we were there, Clara had insisted on a long detour to avoid traffic. Now I wondered if traffic was what she had truly been avoiding. I didn't tell Lily where I was going. She hadn't spoken to me since our argument. I left a note on the counter and drove my old Subaru into the misty morning. As I drove, I practiced what I might say. Asterisk, I'm her husband, asterisk, no, asterisk, I found your letters, asterisk, too accusatory. Asterisk, I just need to understand, asterisk, that felt closer to the truth. The address led me to a modest apartment building tucked between a taqueria and a laundromat. I parked across the street and waited. I saw them before I was mentally prepared. A man with dark hair emerged from the building, followed by a boy with a backpack who was chattering excitedly. The man laughed. It was them. He was Marco. And the boy, Eli, even from a distance, had her face. The slope of his nose, the light brown hair, the way his lips curved when he smiled. He looked just like Clara. I should have moved. I should have crossed the street and said something, anything. But I was paralyzed, my hands gripping the steering wheel as if it were the only thing keeping me from shattering. Across the street, Marco adjusted the boy's collar and nudged him forward. They walked down the street and disappeared around the corner. I remained frozen. There were no tears, no screams, just a silent, internal collapse, as if a part of my soul had caved in without a sound. When I arrived home, the house felt colder and emptier than before. Lily's bedroom door was closed. The note I'd left on the counter was untouched. I didn't have the strength for another fight. I made tea and stared out at the backyard, where the leaves were beginning to turn, heavy with the coming autumn. I didn't hear her until she was right behind me. I read it all. Lily's voice was a soft, wounding whisper. I turned to see her by the stairs, clutching the flash drive. Her face was blotchy, her eyes puffy from crying. You found it in Mom's car, she stated, not a question. The photos, the letters, all of it. I could only nod. I wasn't snooping, I managed to say. I was just cleaning it out to sell it. Is it true? Her voice trembled. Did she have another family? My throat felt raw. I don't know if it was a family, Lily. I don't know what it was. She shook her head. Don't lie to me. Not about this. I took a step toward her, but she flinched away. You always resented how close I was to her, she accused, her voice rising. You were always disappointed in me, in her? And now that she's gone, you're digging up her secrets to prove you were right. That's not fair, I whispered. I didn't want this, but you kept looking, she shot back, her hand shaking. You didn't stop. No, I admitted, my voice low. I didn't. Tears welled in her eyes. I hate this. I hate that she's not here to explain herself. I hate that I don't know who she was anymore. And I hate you for making me see it. The word struck me like a physical blow. I'm going to Grandma's, she announced, turning away. Before I could protest, she was gone, and I heard her packing upstairs. 10 minutes later, the front door slammed shut. I didn't follow. I just stood there, the mug of tea cold in my hands, wondering how many times a heart could break before it gave up completely. The following morning, I was back in Clara's study, surrounded by the remnants of her life. Her desk was perfectly organized, as if she had just stepped out for a coffee. The silence in the room felt profound. I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I remembered a line in one of the scanned documents on the drive: all documents secured in safety deposit box. Key in right drawer, cufflink case. I opened the drawer, half afraid of what else I might find. Beneath some old receipts was the small wooden box I had given her for our 5th anniversary, where she kept her favorite cufflinks. I lifted the lid, and there it was, a small silver key with a numbered tag from a downtown bank. I drove there in a daze. The bank teller recognized Clara's name. She had been a customer for years. After a few signatures and a moment of awkward sympathy, I was led to a private room and left alone with the box. It opened with the simple key. Inside was a thick folder, 3 more flash drives, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. My breath hitched. I opened the letter first. Clara's familiar, slanted handwriting filled the page. My love, if you are reading this, it means the worst has happened. Perhaps you found the drive, or maybe you already know more than I ever found the courage to say. I don't know how to explain, but I owe you the entire truth. I made terrible mistakes. I sank into the chair as I read on. She told me about Marco, how they met at a legal clinic for undocumented immigrants. He was terrified and alone, trying to protect his son. She wrote about a time our marriage had grown cold and distant, a time she crossed a line. It wasn't a long affair, she wrote. It was one night, a moment of weakness that changed everything. I thought I could walk away, but then I found out about Eli. I was a coward. I didn't tell you because I was terrified of losing you and Lily. I told myself I was protecting our family, but I was just protecting myself. She explained that 3 years ago, Marco had reappeared, desperate. Eli was sick, and they were facing deportation. She couldn't turn her back on them. She helped with legal papers, medical bills, and money, all in secret. I know I should have told you. I know this is an impossible thing to ask, but if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, please look after them. Not Marco, he is strong. But Eli. He is just a child. And protect Lily. Shield her from any fallout from what I've done. The folder contains everything else. I trust you, even when I didn't deserve your trust. Always yours, Clara. When I finished, I didn't weep. I just sat there, the letter trembling in my hands, feeling the world shift on its axis. And yet, for the first time in weeks, a flicker of understanding broke through the pain. I didn't go straight home. I sat in my car for a long time, watching the city move on, oblivious. Life continued, but mine had just been fractured in two. The house was still quiet when I returned. A text from my mother-in-law confirmed Lily was safe and needed space. That evening, I opened the folder Clara had left. It contained contact information, medical records, and a copy of the petition she'd filed to help Marco gain legal residency. It also held a birth certificate for Eli, listing Clara as the mother. I thought about that boy and his father, now burdened by a life built on her silence. What had Clara been to them? A savior, a secret, a ghost. The next morning, I drove back to Rainier Valley. I didn't call ahead. I stood across the street, clutching the envelope Clara had addressed to Marco. He answered on the second knock, his eyes widening in recognition. "You're her husband," he said softly. I nodded. Yes, he glanced behind me, as if expecting to see someone else. "Is Lily okay?" he asked, his voice shaking. "She's with her grandmother." After a pause, he said, "Would you like to come inside?" His apartment was small but neat, smelling of lavender and something cooking. I sat awkwardly on the couch as he made tea. "I don't know what you think," he began carefully, "but I never wanted to destroy anything. I believe you," I said, and to my surprise, I meant it. I pushed the envelope across the table. "She left this for you." He traced the edge of the envelope, his eyes glistening. "I loved her," he whispered. "Not in the way you did, with a house and a wedding ring. But she saved us." I let his words settle in the quiet space between us. I could have argued, but what was the point? "Eli thinks his mother worked far away," he continued. "That she was too busy to visit often, but that she cared deeply." I never knew how to explain. I nodded. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice small. I didn't have a clear answer. All I knew was that I had seen a boy who looked like my wife, a man who had shouldered a terrible burden alone, and a daughter at home who needed me to be more than just angry. "We figure it out," I said. Slowly. For the children, he looked up, his expression a mixture of relief and surprise. "You don't have to do this, no," I whispered, tears finally blurring my vision. "But someone does," and for the first time since Clara died, I didn't feel like I was falling apart. I felt like I was starting over, not from scratch, but from a place of difficult truth. Lily returned 3 days later. I heard the front door open and the thud of her bag on the floor. I was in the kitchen, slicing apples. For a long moment, we were silent. "So," she said, her voice flat. "Did you meet them?" I didn't turn around. "Yes," she came closer. "And?" "It's complicated," I said, putting the knife down. "But they're not evil. Marco isn't a villain. He's just someone who made impossible choices. Like your mom. Like me." She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Choices?" "Right," I faced her then. "Lily, I know you're furious." "No," she corrected, her voice cracking. "I'm disgusted. I thought I knew who she was. She was my hero, Dad. Now I don't know if she even wanted me, or if I was just the family she was stuck with." I took a deep breath. "Don't ever say that." "Why not?" she shot back, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You're thinking it too." "No," I said firmly. "I'm heartbroken. But I don't believe for a second you were ever a consolation prize. I think she was torn, and she made the worst possible choice." She hid. Lily crossed her arms, her jaw set. "I don't want to meet that boy." "I don't care who he is." "You don't have to," I said gently. "Not now. Maybe never. But I want you to understand something." I pulled Clara's letter from a drawer and held it out to her. She took it reluctantly. "I don't need to read her excuses." "They aren't excuses," I said. "They're the truth. She couldn't tell us when she was alive. And maybe they're the only way we can move on." She clutched the envelope, then walked past me and up to her room. This time, the door closed softly. Later that night, I saw the light was still on under her door. I knew she was in there, wrestling with her grief, and I left her to it. I lay in my own bed, missing my wife. God help me, I missed all of her, the woman I thought I knew, and the flawed, secretive woman I was just discovering. Even in her betrayal, she had tried to leave us with something more than just rage. The next morning, I sat by the window and wrote a letter of my own, not to Clara, but to Eli. "Dear Eli," I wrote. "You don't know me, and that's okay. I'm writing because sometimes adults make choices that leave children with questions they never asked for. My name is Emma's husband. I was married to your mother, Clara. I'm not sure what she told you, but the truth is, she loved you quietly, from a distance, in the only broken way she knew how. That wasn't enough, and it wasn't fair to you or to my daughter, Lily. But I need you to know this: your existence is not a mistake. You are not a secret to be ashamed of. You are a boy with a full laugh, who loves science and sleeps with one leg out of the covers. I know this because I saw you once, and in your smile, I saw your mother's. It won't be easy for any of us. My heart is still heavy, and Lily is still trying to understand. But despite all the sadness, you are not to blame. You are loved. One day, if you want to talk, or ask questions, or just sit with someone who knew your mother in a different way, I'll be here. Until then, be kind to your father. He's a brave man. And be kind to yourself. I folded the letter, my hand steady now. It wasn't about fear anymore, it was about release. I tucked it into my desk drawer. Perhaps Marco would find it one day, or Eli would, years from now, and he would understand that the truth, while painful, did not have to destroy us. Later that afternoon, Lily appeared in the kitchen. Her eyes were tired. I read the letter, she said quietly. I nodded. I don't forgive her yet. You don't have to, but I don't hate her, either, she whispered, and her voice didn't tremble. We stood side by side as the afternoon sun slanted through the window, illuminating the dust motes like tiny, falling stars. Healing wasn't a grand gesture. It was this, standing still together, and not walking away. Autumn settled in gently that year. I started baking again, and the house began to smell like cinnamon and something approaching peace. Lily and I found a new, quiet rhythm. We didn't always talk, but the silence was no longer heavy with unspoken anger. One evening, I found her on the couch, watching old home videos. It was her 10th birthday. Clara was on screen, wearing a silly party hat, holding a lopsided cake while a younger Lily giggled. I miss her, Lily murmured. I sat beside her. Me too, she leaned her head on my shoulder, the first time she'd sought comfort from me since the funeral. Do you think she wanted to fix it? She asked. I considered it. I think she was trying, I said, in the only way she knew how. That seemed to be enough. The next day, I received a text from Marco. It was a photo of Eli at a science fair grinning next to a lopsided papier-mâché volcano. The caption read, "He got second place." He wanted you to know. I smiled through a fresh wave of tears. I showed the picture to Lily. She studied it for a long moment. He looks like Mom, she whispered. I know. She didn't say anything more, but she didn't look away. We let things be. We gave each other space to mourn and to shift, the kind of space that allows new things to grow. Not forgiveness, not yet. But acceptance. Then, one Sunday morning, as I was pouring hot chocolate, Lily asked, "Do you think he'd want to come over for dinner sometime?" The boy. I paused, looking up at her. She shrugged. Just, if he wants to. A slow smile spread across my face. I think he might like that, she nodded, sipping her drink as she watched the frost on the windowpane. Outside, the leaves were finally falling. Inside, something new was beginning. The first time Eli came to the house, he clutched a book to his chest like a shield. Marco stood behind him on the porch, his smile nervous and polite. It was Lily who opened the door. For a second, they just stared at each other, two kids connected by everything and nothing. "Hey," Lily said. "Hi," Eli mumbled. Then, to my surprise, Lily stepped back. "Well, are you coming in?" And just like that, the spell was broken. Dinner was a bit stilted. We had spaghetti. Marco and I mostly talked to each other, leaving the kids to find their own way. But when Eli mentioned he loved physics, Lily's eyes lit up. "That's my best subject," she said. "You like black holes and stuff?" "Yeah," Eli breathed. "I want to be an astrophysicist," Lily admitted. Eli's face was a picture of awe. That's really cool. It was a small start, but it was a start. After dinner, I heard them talking in the living room, their voices growing from tentative questions to bursts of shared laughter. As Marco helped me with the dishes, he said quietly, "You've raised a wonderful girl, so have you," I replied. There was a simple peace between us now, one that didn't erase the past, but acknowledged it and chose to build something new. Before they left, Eli turned to me. "Thank you for the letter," he said. "And then, can I come back sometime?" A warmth bloomed in my chest. Of course, I watched them walk away into the night, a boy and his father, no longer defined by silence and secrets. Later, as I was turning off the lights, Lily came and stood beside me. "He's okay," she said. I nodded. She leaned against my side, and we watched the streetlights flicker on. There was no grand finale, just a porch light left on, 2 mugs in the sink, and a home that had stretched its walls to hold more than one truth, more than one kind of love. Healing wasn't about going back to what was. It was about building something new and having the courage to let others inside. The weeks turned into months. Cautious visits softened into a quiet routine. Eli would come over on Sundays, sometimes bringing a new science fact, or a wilted plant he was trying to grow. He and Lily didn't talk about Clara directly, but her presence was a gentle shadow in the room, a reminder of the light. Marco started coming more often, too. One afternoon, he brought over tamales and a photo of Eli as a baby. "He used to sleep on my chest," he said, his voice soft with memory. "So warm I thought my heart would melt." I listened, and I could picture it. I could finally see the man my wife had loved, not to excuse her, but to accept all the pieces of who she was. That spring, Lily and Eli built a model of the solar system for the community science fair. As they stood proudly under the auditorium lights, I stood in the back beside Marco. Our hands brushed, and neither of us pulled away. Eli ran toward us afterward, clutching a red ribbon. "Second place again," he announced. Lily followed, her cheeks flushed. "You were great," she told him, and he beamed at her. For the first time, I saw not just Clara's likeness in his face, but a light that was entirely his own. That night, Lily sat on the edge of my bed. "I don't think I'll ever stop being mad at Mom," she said. "You don't have to," I replied. "But," she added, "I'm glad Eli's here." My throat tightened. Me too. In that moment, I understood. We don't get to choose our beginnings. But we can choose how the story continues. We can choose grace. We can choose to build a family, even one born from a fracture.